Every 50 years, the sea returns what it once took. This time, it returned a man, missing for a century, still the same age. Now the tide is rising, and Driftmoor's secret is surfacing. The village of Driftmoor clings to the cliffside like a barnacle, small and gray, hidden beneath a permanent shroud of mist. The people there live quiet, careful lives. They speak in hushed tones and keep their eyes from wandering too far toward the tide. Because every 50 years, the sea returns something. Sometimes it's a shattered boat. Sometimes it's bones, long picked clean. Sometimes it's a voice in the fog that calls your name. This year, it returned a man. It was dawn when Maren Elber found him. She was walking alone, her boots sinking slightly in the wet sand, when she saw him, sprawled at the waterline like a forgotten statue. Pale skin, salt-stained clothes, eyes wide open, and breathing. She dropped to her knees beside him, trying to shake him awake. He gasped. Thorn Weller. She froze. That name! That was impossible. Thorn Weller had vanished in 1925, swallowed by the sea during a winter storm. There was a plaque with his name on it in the town square. A ghost story parents used to frighten children. Yet here he was, 30 years old, not a wrinkle in sight. His skin was cool, but alive. Maren brought him to the local clinic. News spread fast. Elderly villagers whispered, the younger ones Googled. Photos were pulled from dusty archives, showing Thorn's face beside a wooden boat. The resemblance was exact. He was the same man, the same age, 100 years later. No one knew how to explain it. Some claimed it was a miracle. Others avoided him entirely. Maren wasn't just a bystander. She was the granddaughter of the old lighthouse keeper. Her family had lived in Driftmoor for generations. She dug into her grandmother's journals, searching for answers. One entry chilled her. The sea grows restless. It speaks through him, Thorn Weller. We chose him. The others agreed. The pact must hold. May he forgive us. She turned the page. It had been torn. Thorn wandered the village like a dreamer, confused by flashing cars, glass phones, plastic cups. He asked where his mother was buried. He stared too long at the sea, and at night, he didn't sleep. I hear bells, he told Maren, beneath the waves. At first, it was subtle. Thorn would pause mid-sentence, tilting his head toward the window as if hearing something just beyond human range. Sometimes, he'd speak in fragments. Strange, salt-soaked phrases no one understood. Other times, he'd seem normal, even cheerful, before falling silent for hours. Maren began to notice the physical changes. One morning, he showed her his hands.
They're itchy,
he murmured. His fingertips were blistered, not red, but silvering, like something calcified beneath the skin. When she looked closer, she saw tiny spirals forming just beneath the surface. Barnacles, growing inward. He started sweating seawater. His bedsheets were damp every morning. His breath held the scent of brine and kelp. She checked his pulse once, then again. It was rhythmic but wrong, like waves crashing in his chest. Driftmoor began to respond in kind. The village bell, once rusted, silent for decades, started to chime at random. Always at night, always when Thorn was near. The harbor fog rolled in thick, staying long after the sun rose. Boats floated without anchors, turning slowly toward the horizon, as if pulled by invisible strings. Seagulls stopped coming. Crows replaced them. Thorn began dreaming in water. He would mutter in sleep, soaked with sweat and sea salt, whispering names Maren had never heard. Names of drowned sailors, lost ships, forgotten gods. One night, she sat beside him recording what he said. Later, when she played it back, the recording was silent, except for the sound of deep, distant bells and something breathing. Worse, he was forgetting things. Not just recent memories, but pieces of who he was. His mother's voice, the name of his dog, his favorite food. But he remembered the sea. He always remembered the sea. One night, Maren watched him walk into the surf up to his knees, fully dressed, as if answering a call. She ran after him, grabbed his arm. "Thorn! What are you doing?" He looked at her, not confused, but calm, serene almost.
It's quieter out there,
He said.
I can think better when I'm with it.
She pulled him back to shore, and for the first time, she was afraid not of the ocean, but of him. Later in her journal, Maren wrote, "He's slipping, not dying, but unraveling, as if the sea is rewriting him from the inside. I don't think it ever let go. I think it's still holding him." And Thorn? He stopped asking why he came back, and started asking what he was becoming. The sea no longer whispered. It roared. It began with the tides, no longer following the moon, but surging in at odd hours, slamming violently against the stone walls of Driftmoor. The harbor flooded twice in one day. Fishing boats were found cracked open, as if bitten by something large. Then came the stillness. For one full day, the sea didn't move. The waves froze in place, flat, glossy, like the calm before a scream. Maren stood at her window, watching the ocean hold its breath. And in the distance, she saw it, a silhouette of a shipwreck where there should have been open water. A wreck she had read about in the journals, a vessel that went missing the same year Thorn did. The ship was never recovered. But now it stood there, half sunken, bleeding shadows, and every night after its appearance, Thorn changed more. He stopped sleeping. His eyes grew darker, not just from exhaustion, but in color. The hazel shifted to a green-black, like deep algae. When he spoke, his voice echoed, even in small rooms, like it bounced off invisible cavern walls. Salt crusted at the corners of his lips. He no longer blinked. His skin wasn't skin anymore. It looked smooth at a glance, but under light, it shimmered, scaled, like something that belonged in the depths. The villagers began to fear him openly. A few tried to cast him out. One old man threw salt in Thorn's face during the market. "You should have stayed dead!" Thorn didn't flinch. The old man's house was found drowned in seawater the next morning, mussels and seaweed coating the floor, though it hadn't rained. No one spoke of it. Maren searched for answers. Desperately, frantically, she tore apart the journals, interrogated the past like it owed her something. And finally, she found it. A single page, folded, hidden inside the spine of her great-grandmother's book. It read, "The sea gives only what it wants to take again. We asked for mercy, we gave Thorn. But the pact was not an end, it was a delay. Every 100 years it asks again. Not for life, but for justice." She ran to find him. Thorn was at the cliffside, standing barefoot at the edge, the wind coiling around him like tendrils of smoke. "I remember," he said before she spoke. "I remember what they did." His voice was calm, controlled, cold. "They tied me, dragged me to the rocks, prayed over me, then left me for the tide." He turned to her, face unreadable. "I didn't drown, Maren. I changed. The sea made me something else. And now, it's waking." Below, the ocean churned in unnatural spirals. The wreck groaned. Bells tolled from underwater, and above, the clouds spiraled just the same, mirroring the chaos below. Driftmoor trembled. The wind howled with voices, unintelligible and mournful. Maren's voice cracked. "What do we do?" Thorn looked down at his hands. They were no longer human. He flexed his fingers. Water dripped from his nails. "The sea is not angry at me. It's angry at all of you. But maybe I can stop it. Maybe, if I go back." Maren reached for him, but he stepped away. "The reckoning has already begun. I can only offer it one last gift. Me." That night, The villagers gathered in silence as thunder rolled in from a cloudless sky. The wind died, the ocean rose, and Thorn disappeared into the waves. The wind howled. A shipwreck, one long lost, surfaced from the depths, its broken mast scraping the sky. Marin found the final page of the journal. It read, "If the sea returns what we once gave, it is not to forgive. It is to ask, would you do it again?" Thorn looked at her. "If I stay, the sea will take everything. If I go, maybe you'll be safe." And without waiting for an answer, he walked into the waves. They welcomed him like an old friend. The sea calmed, the fish returned, the tides grew gentle. But Driftmoor will never forget. And neither will Marin. Especially not when 1 week later, a single shell appeared on her doorstep. She held it to her ear. It whispered her name. Because the ocean forgets nothing,